This past week was a historic week for us in the church. Was a historic week, really, in the world, as we got to witness the election of Pope Leo the 14th. First American-born pope. Spent a lot of time in Peru. Augustinian priest. So he's in an order called the Augustinians. But there's just a lot of. While it was going on, I was struck by how few times this actually happens over the course of somebody's lifetime, right? The last time we had a papal conclave and all the stuff was 12, 13 years ago for Pope Francis. Before that, Pope Benedict was another 12, 13 years before that. Pope John Paul II was 20 years before that, right? So it's been a while, 20 plus years before that. So there's very few of these that actually happen. It's really a big moment in history. I was doing like most people, I think, or most Catholics, or most priests at least. I was on chimney watch, right, all weekend, all week it felt like, from the moment that the conclave started through the next day and into Thursday. I was sitting down. As we were sitting down, I was at my desk on Thursday morning, actually doing work, and actually at my desk. It was weird. But so, yeah, that's why I don't do it. We get new popes. But anyway, I was sitting there, and in the corner of my desktop, I had the camera, like the live feed that was paying attention to the chimney. And as I'm doing it, I just see some activity, and it wasn't one of the birds, right, from jumping around or flying around. And then all of a sudden, you start seeing smoke, and it's like, is that white or is that gray? And then, oh, it's a little bit lighter, and then, oh, that's white smoke. That's a lot of white smoke. We got a pope, right? So I ran across the building, come put it on TV, made sure. As it started to kind of come around, people started showing up. So it was like 11:15 when this happened. Students started coming in, so I know a lot of our students here were there, and it was just a lot of fun just watching everything kind of take place. We did like you would normally do if there was a football game or something, and you had to, we paused it, the coverage, came in, celebrated Mass for the 12:15 Mass, 21 and a half minute Mass. It was great. Walked in, but I wasn't timing it, somebody else was. But walked in, celebrated Mass, no homily, tough, you're not getting that tonight, right? We went out right after and were able to watch all the stuff on delay, even though we heard somebody scream from down the hallway, excited that we had a pope. I'm not going to talk about who, but she knows who she is. But anyway, so all these things were going on, and it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of excitement, right? But while watching all the coverage, there were a few things that really stuck out to me. It was interesting because whenever the smoke happened, it wasn't a typical time that they were waiting for an announcement. But it was when the white smoke goes, now all of a sudden, the St. Peter's Square, if you've never been there, and pictures don't do it justice, it is a huge space. It is a massive, massive, massive amount of space that's in the main square, right? It looks like it might just be the front yard of St. Thomas. It's a massive area. So there were people that were there kind of camping out, making sure that they got the good seat when everything went on, right? But they were kind of waiting around, and then when the white smoke happened, it was interesting to watch the coverage that was just trying to pay attention to the square. And in the matter of about 30 minutes, they went from a few thousand people to hundreds of thousands of people. And it was just it was the aerial coverage was crazy to see, because not only is St. Peter's Square full, but then the boulevard that leads down into St. Peter's Square, that filled up with hundreds of thousands of people on the street. And then if you even notice into the neighborhoods off to either side, because they had drone footage going on, you could see people were piling in and pouring in from every corner of the city into St. Peter's Square just to get a glimpse of the new Holy Father. Right? They didn't know who he was. They didn't know what was going to happen. They just know white smoke, he's going to be coming out, right? It's time to come out and to see. And I couldn't help but, while that was going on, to be reminded of that when I was looking at the readings for this weekend. Listen to the words of the second reading, the beginning of the second reading. So it's from the book of Revelation. In the book of Revelation, John is getting a vision of heaven. And this is what he says. I, John, had a vision of a great multitude, which no one could count, from every nation, race, people, and tongue. They stood before the throne and before the Lamb. It was interesting because watching it and seeing the camera shots that kept going over the crowd, right? If you pay attention, you really notice, you see all kind of national flags that are present. Some that are in Europe, but some that are from all over the world. An American flag here, right? That one got a lot of publicity because we had an American pope, right? Like, and American TV stations. But like, you start seeing all of these different flags. But you have people that were on the ground, like trying to get like interviews and stuff with people, and they're walking around and they're bouncing from person to person because they're asking for an interview and then they hear Italian, or they're asking for an interview and they hear Dutch, and they're asking for an interview and they hear they hear all these random things, like all these different languages, but ultimately like they have to actually hear somebody speak English because all these different tongues goes over the crowd, and it's just this faceless mass of people that are gathered. Why? Because they want to see who's sitting on the throne, right? Like who's going to be the one that's going to come out as the Holy Father. It was interesting because as we were watching it, before like the announcement, when the first thing that happens is the cardinal, like the cardinal walks out, the most senior cardinal in the conclave walks out, and he's the one that reads the thing. It says like, oh, habemus papam, we have a pope, right? And I announce with great joy and all these things. And then like it's a big Latin script that he reads, and that's where the name is. And like I'm sitting there and I'm listening for a name, and it's a name I don't recognize, and then it's the papal name that he takes of Leo the 14th, and again it's a name I didn't recognize. So like it was funny because while we were doing that, everybody like I felt like everybody that was in mass, was like 150 people, had come into the cafe, and at the time whenever we're sitting there waiting, it was an American pope, and I was like shocked. I'm like, we would never have an American pope. There's plenty of reasons why, but I'm just sitting there and I'm like, wow, what? I'm shocked, and I felt like everybody in the room was waiting for me to react, and I'm like, I can't react. This is just crazy, right? Like it was just nuts that this is going on, all these things. And then when he stepped out, I was so taken aback by the camera angle they had. Because they've had plenty of pictures and images of popes that come out, and they have plenty of times that you see like the news coverage. You can see like the coverage of John Paul II when he came out, and it was like really grainy because it's like 1979 or 1980, whenever it was that he was named. And Pope Benedict it was the same kind of thing, but it was like 2000s, and it was like a far shot. And Pope Francis, it was rainy, and it was a far shot, and it was nighttime by the time he came out when he was named. So this was the first time, though, that I've ever seen a camera on the balcony with him. And it was like a shot just of his face. And as he's standing there and he's looking out, you just see like him being overwhelmed and crying. And as I was sitting there, I was reminded, like earlier in the week, people were talking about what like the room of tears, which is after the Pope is elected, he goes into a room and that's where he changes. And they called the room of tears. They said it's because he finally like hit the pinnacle of his profession. That's a lie. That's not at all why he's crying, right? He's crying because like when you sit on the throne, and like that we hear about in the book of Revelation, when you are the one who is now the vicar of Christ, well, you have the responsibility to be the vicar of Christ. You have a responsibility to be the figurehead of Christ, the image of Christ to the entire world at all times. That's one heck of a burden. And when he's looking out at the church gathered, a great multitude, which no one could count, from every nation, race, people, and tongue. And you recognize that I'm here to be your Holy Father. That's overwhelming. That's a lot. It's heavy. I say all that because I think it's very fitting, especially along the lines of what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, we talked about that the church exists to save, right? And that the whole reason why we have the church is that Jesus, his saving mission, continues through the action of the church, right? Through what we do, who we are, and how we proclaim the faith. Last week, we talked about that the church exists to facilitate communion with God, namely through the sacrament of the Eucharist, but also through all of the sacraments. But namely, Jesus gives us himself through the sacrament of the Eucharist, right? And he continues to give himself through the church, through the sacrament of the Eucharist, so that he could be in communion with us. That the church exists to facilitate communion with God. The church, the third one that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, that today we want to reflect on, is that the church exists so that we could see the unity of all the peoples before God. And I can't shake from that image of the Holy Father standing before a crowd that no one could count, a great multitude of every race and people and nation, right? is a perfect expression of who we are as church. As I was sitting with it, there's two pieces that I want to be very clear with, though, because of this election of the new pope, and I think it's important, especially with hearing some of the commentary that has been going around the world the last couple of days. The first thing, quite honestly, we as a lot of our news sources are working in an American context, right? Working in the United States of America with the United States political system, and I want to be very clear: the church is not the American political system. Right? It has there's political elements or whatever, but it is not operating on the same level as the American political system. What do I mean? When we elect a president for 4 years, and really he has to get to work for 2 years, because at that point you have midterm elections, and after that you either run for re-election or you punt into the next person in your party, right? That's how our political system works. So that first 100 days matters and all those kind of things. You got to get a lot of work done very quickly, and then really you just start campaigning all over again. In the church, so the Pope is 69 years old. Let's say he lives until he's 90. He has 21 years to be Pope. That's a long time. So people already, like in the media, are like trying to talk about, well, who is he going to name for this, and what is he going to do with this? And they're trying to like typecast him as this guy or that guy, or they're trying to say he's not going to be like the last pope or the previous pope or the pope before that, or he's going to be more along the lines of this guy, and he does this and that. All of that is BS. All of that is a waste of time. Because there's no pressure to do anything fast. Church works in centuries, not in weeks. Calm down, right? Like, we're not called to pigeonhole the Holy Father. Like to try and figure out what is he going to do and who is he going to be and how is he going to... That's a waste of time. We're called to pray. Let's start there. The second thing that sticks out to me, it actually was something that one of our students said while we were watching the beginning of the conclave, where all the cardinals, they came into the Sistine Chapel, they made their oath of secrecy, right? And then they have the one of the cardinals stands, or one of the bishops, the Monsignor, whatever, stands in front and he says, extra omnes, which means everybody that's not part of this, get out, right? And you see all these people starting to empty out the Sistine Chapel. It stuck out to me because it was the people that were in the Sistine Chapel are normal men. Like, it's kind of weird. It's almost like a little bit like nerve-wracking because they're normal guys. Bunch of old dudes, right, in funny clothes, right, with pointy hats and red on, right, like all these kind of things. But like when they were walking out especially, it was interesting because as they were walking out, there was an old priest that was walking out, and he had like a walker, and he was having a hard time going down the steps. Right? There were a couple of them that were younger, and they were trying to like look uber formal, and I'm like, that looks like Father so-and-so, but I'm not going to say a name. Right? But as I'm watching this, I'm just like, they're normal guys. I know guys that walk like that. I know guys that need walkers, right? Like they're normal men. The first time when I was able to go to Rome a few years back, and it was myself, and two seminarian classmates of mine, and we were like sitting around and we were goofing around, and we were with Father Josh Rodrigue from Thibodeau, right? So he's one of our priests, and when we went to dinner with one of his classmates who was in Rome at the time and working in the Vatican and all this kind of stuff. And it was funny because when we sat at the table, we were like talking and joking around, and then we started laughing at them picking on each other. Like they were just like, you know, like joking around, making jokes, like talking about old things and telling old stories and how they pulled pranks on each other and they did this and they did that and all those kind of things. And I'm sitting there and we were laughing, but what I was struck by the most was that they're normal guys. It's funny because Father Josh is now in charge of Notre Dame Seminary, and the other guy is now a bishop in Texas. They're normal men. They have a background. Our Holy Father, the interesting thing is, being from the south side of Chicago, he's a White Sox fan, which means that he understands martyrdom. He understands like what it means to suffer, right? We can get along very, very well as a Saints fan with him. There's a clip that was going around of him actually being like the face in the crowd that they cut to whenever the World Series was going on in 2005, when the White Sox beat the Astros in Game 1, those jerks. But like Adam Everett was about to strike out, and they cut to him, and anyway, but I'm over it. It's fine, right? But like it was just like some of these things that was really interesting because it's like he's a normal guy. He was playing Wordle with his brothers before he walked into conclave. Like I'm like, this is really funny. They're normal people. They're normal people that are called to something extraordinary, though. All of the bishops are called to something extraordinary. The Pope is called to something extraordinary, but it just proves that God is with his church and that God is the one that's actually at work. He said something in his address that really stuck out to me. It's one of my favorite lines. It's actually from Saint Augustine, who is the founder, or who's the one that his order is based off of his teachings. But Saint Augustine once said, "With you I am a Christian, but for you I am a bishop." With you I am a Christian, but for you I'm a bishop. We want to talk about unity. We want to talk about the unity of the church. Particularly that first part of that line speaks to it. With you, I'm a Christian. St. Augustine said this. The Pope said this whenever he was out making his first address to the whole church, that with you, I am a Christian, but for you, I am the Pope. For you, I am the Holy Father. As a priest, with you, I am a Christian, but for you, I am your priest. This is how we're called to live. I think this is a mission statement, if you will, for the church. That with you, I am a Christian, that phrase, with you, I am a Christian, is so important and so fundamental. Because what it tells us is that with you, I am a Christian, it gives some emphasis to the most important day of every one of our life, our baptism. Your baptism is the most important day of your entire life, bar none. Because salvation comes through baptism. That through the waters of baptism we die with Christ, we're adopted by Christ, and that you and I have been adopted, being adopted by Christ. There's a relationship that is established with God the Father as a beloved child, and that relationship does not go away. It does not change, it does not break. That by virtue of your baptism and mine, that we are first stand before God as His child. Doesn't matter if I'm an actual child. It doesn't matter if I'm the Holy Father. It doesn't matter if I'm a priest in Thibodaux, Louisiana, a bishop on the other side of the world, right? It doesn't matter if I'm a mom with 20 kids or if I'm a dad who's just struggling, right? It doesn't matter who we are. Every last one of us stands before God first as a child. Forever and always, by virtue of our baptism. So when St. Augustine says it, and when it's echoed through the centuries, with you I am a Christian, shows the unity that every one of us has. That before God, you and I are first His child and a Christian. But that posture is not meant to just be for us. That posture is not meant just to be something that we sit in, that we just enjoy, that we just absorb. We don't have a relationship with God that is just like a sponge type of relationship, right? It's not just for us to absorb more and more and more and more and to not move from here. We're also called to then serve. With you I am a Christian, for you I am a bishop. With you I am a Christian, for you I am a priest. With you I am a Christian, for you I am the Holy Father, right? With you I am a Christian. Today's Mother's Day, for you I'm a mom. Moms know what that feels like. They know what that means. With you, I am a Christian, right? Like I come before God and pray before God like everybody else. But for you, I'm a mother. That means that whenever you're sick, I stay up with you. That whenever you're struggling, I'm here to listen to you. When you need help with your homework, I'm there to do it. When you need food, I'm there to do it. When you need a good butt whipping, I'm there to do it, right? Whatever it is, like with you, maybe that's my mom, but like with you, I'm a Christian. For you, I am fill in the blank. With you, I'm a Christian. For you, I'm a husband. With you, I'm a Christian. For you, I'm a father. With you, I'm a Christian. For you, I'm a friend. With you, I'm a Christian. For you, I'm a fiance. I'm a girlfriend. I'm a boyfriend. I'm someone in your fraternity. I'm your coworker, whatever. But with you, I'm a Christian puts us in a position where we first receive from God, and then for you, I am called to serve in whatever relationship we have. Just imagine with me for a second, if every one of us on a day-to-day basis would look at every relationship that we have through that context, like from that perspective. That with you I am a Christian, that would first establish, if God can love me, He can love you as well. And for you, I'm going to extend myself to love you, to serve you, and to do right and good for you. This is the mission of the church that we all have a part in. That you and I are called first to be before God as his child, right? To receive from God, to understand ourselves in light of God, right? To understand, to be able to receive God's love. And then as we go forward from Mass, as we go forward from prayer, as we live our life, we cultivate our own little slice of the world. That with you I am a Christian. Before you I'm called to serve. For you I'm called to love. We have expressions of this in the Mass. Like when we come to Mass tonight, right? Like we come before God, and we come before God all together, unified, to receive him, right? To be fed by him, to be loved by him, to be met by him. I've said it before, but at the end of Mass, we're then called and sent out by him. My second grade teacher would be so proud. The last words of the Mass are not a declarative sentence. It's not just saying something. The last words of the Mass are an imperative. There's a command. It tells us to do something. Go and announce the gospel of the Lord. It is not a suggestion. It's a call and a command. With you I am a Christian. For you I share. For you I proclaim. For you I speak. For you I love. For you I serve. Today when we come to Mass, we all come before God humbly as his children, receiving from him. And then we're all sent out equally to go out and to proclaim his word, to go out and to share his grace, to go out and to serve and to love our brothers and sisters that are in need or that aren't. I think the words of Saint Augustine, the words of our Holy Father, lead us and inspire us this week. That we would be unified in our posture before God, but we would also be called to serve, called to extend ourselves to those around us. May today, as we come to Mass, that we recognize that with each other, we are Christians. But for each other, we are called to serve.